We have the world at our fingertips, inspiration in our touch, and power in our hands. Our hands, gentle enough to hold the next generation, yet strong enough to build movements that can change the world. Our hands can build relationships, frame ideas, and empower communities. We have the ability to share and imagine, create and comfort, love and heal the world around us. And it doesn't stop there. Right here, in our hands, we have the power to save a life. If you see a teen or adult suddenly collapse, call 911 and push hard and fast in the center of the chest.
The power is in your hands.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Greater Washington Serve Day CPR event. I'm Dr. Brian Buckley, a member of the Board of Directors for the American Heart Association's Greater Washington region. I also have the pleasure of serving as the 2022 Heart Ball's Face of Heart. At the ball, I shared the story of how I used CPR to save the life of Chris Holton, who went into sudden cardiac arrest on a path in front of me when I was out on a bike ride in the summer of 2021. I didn't know Chris, but I knew the basics of CPR from my lifeguard days many years ago. Those basics, coupled with the help of other bystanders and the response of EMS, saved Chris's life and changed my own life forever. You truly never know when you will be in a situation where you will need to take action. I know I never thought about it before. On behalf of the American Heart Association's team and the board of directors, thank you for taking the time out of your busy day. I know time is precious to participate in this important event. Serve Day is a way to take the heart ball beyond the ballroom to support our community and contribute to breaking down the barriers to health for all. Together, we are rolling up our sleeves, quite literally today, to improve the health of our community. This wouldn't be possible without our friends at SAIC, who are sponsoring today's event. Thank you for your support. So as you saw being the beat, the American Heart Association aims to teach the life-saving skill of CPR at least to one person every household nationwide. You are making a direct impact on this goal by taking action today. I want to thank you for volunteering your time. As I said, I know it's precious to learn about hands-only CPR so you can become part of a nation of lifesavers ready and willing to act in an emergency. Your hands can save someone's life. To give you a couple of statistics here, more than 350,000 cardiac arrests occur outside of the hospital each year. And about 90% of people who experience a cardiac arrest do not make it. Just to put that into context, that's 35,000 people every year that could have been saved. It means that loved ones won't be around for the holidays or graduations or weddings. Or for Chris Holton, we've gotten a lot of times to talk, being there for his kids' softball games. It means missing family and friends at backyard cookouts and on birthdays and anniversaries. It means grandchildren who won't get to know the wisdom and companionship of beloved grandparents and other elders in their life. To be clear, cardiac arrest can break the heart of a whole entire family. And the American Heart Association is hard at work to change these statistics every day with a relentless passion. Here locally, they were instrumental in passing of legislation a few years ago that made CPR training at high school graduation a requirement in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. For many of those that are listening on, your child might have already been trained in CPR. That means every year, over 164,000 young people graduate school armed with the skills to save a life. Last year, they also led the charge with the passage of the telecommuter CPR requirement in the district, ensuring that all 911 call takers were properly trained to give CPR instructions over the phone. This is an amazingly big thing. This new requirement went into effect last year, October 2022, and will save countless lives. None of this would have been possible without the support and funds raised through the Heart of Greater Washington's campaign and each and every one of you. A huge thank you to my fellow board member, who are with us today, and with also our live fierce partner, Sheehy Auto Stores, and of course today's presenting sponsor, AHA board member and 2023 Heart of Greater Washington chair and friend, Vishal, Senior Vice President of SAIC. Vishal, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you to all the participating companies for joining us today. It is so special to bring together our Heart of Greater Washington community for an afternoon of service and learning. As Brian shared, Serve Day is about going beyond the ballroom and connecting directly to our power to change lives, right here in Greater Washington region. Like many of you, I have a personal connection to heart disease. Both my father and grandfather were diagnosed with heart disease, and seeing their resilience in the face of these obstacles has inspired me to take action as a chair of the last 2 Heart Balls. I'm proud to have the support of SAIC, who promotes heart health for their employees and the communities we work in, while supporting the great work of the American Heart Association through hosting events like this. Thank you, SAIC, for your continued support. Serve Day is all about taking action. Today, together, we'll learn the basics of CPR and hopefully walk away feeling empowered on what to do in the face of an emergency. I hope you will also join me in taking action by asking your friends and family to get trained. It only takes a few minutes to learn how to save a life. But before we get there, we're going to hear from Jacqueline Costell, president of Kurt Reich Memorial Fund, a member of this year's Heart of Greater Washington Executive Leadership Team. The executive leadership team was truly the backbone of the campaign, raising funds and support for the mission of the Heart Association. If you are a member of your company and are interested in getting involved, let us know. Working with passionate leaders like Jacqueline, Sanjay, Tim, and Brian is an absolute honor. Please join me in welcoming Jacqueline.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to the American Heart Association for your tireless effort in spreading awareness on the importance of learning hands-only CPR. The Kurt Reich Memorial Fund was created with the mission of education and awareness surrounding CPR and the importance of making AEDs, automated external defibrillators, more accessible. Today, I'm here to tell you about my brother, Kurt Reich, and his husband, David Klimas, and the unfortunate circumstances surrounding my brother's untimely passing in the early morning hours of January 16th, 2021. I hope that in sharing what my brother-in-law, David, experienced will motivate you to spread the word about the importance of learning hands-only CPR. Kurt and David went to bed like any couple on a Friday night. They had entertained a few couples and then fell asleep watching their favorite show, The Golden Girls. David woke up around 2 a.m. to some strange noises and realized that my brother was shaking violently in their bed. He initially thought my brother was having a bad dream, and when he didn't wake up, he turned the light on and quickly realized that my brother was experiencing a medical emergency. He was convulsing uncontrollably and gasping for air. David called 911 and he began administering CPR, but he will be the first to tell you that he didn't really know how to perform it. He relied on the dispatcher and he did his best to resuscitate his partner of 23 years. He wasn't prepared. Nobody ever really is, especially in a moment of crisis, to save Kurt's life. He didn't realize that he should have been giving him CPR on the floor or on a hard, flat surface and not on the bed. And he also didn't start CPR right away. My brother was only 50 years old when he died of sudden cardiac arrest. He was the pillar of good health. He worked out daily and he was a fantastic cook, constantly making healthy homemade meals. Heart disease does run in our family. My father died of a heart attack when he was 52 years old. Sudden cardiac arrest does not discriminate. It can happen to anyone at any time without warning. Knowing how to administer hands-only CPR can double or triple the chance of survival. After my brother's passing, the Kurt Reich Memorial Fund proudly donated $100,000 to the American Heart Association. With some of that funding, the AHA trained thousands of people, as Brian was telling you earlier, that it was so incredibly important to train local people on hands-only CPR and AED education. They also fought to pass a new bill in Washington, D.C. that required 911 dispatchers to properly train and coach callers through administering CPR during a crisis. The telecommunicator CPR bill passed, and a significant amount of funding was allocated to this life-saving program in the district. The bill went into effect last October, the month my brother would have turned 52 years old. David and I can only hope that because of this new requirement, fewer families won't have to live in the pain of wondering, what if CPR had been administered sooner, or what if he began hands-only training with my brother on the floor and not on the bed. Months after my brother's passing, I became certified in CPR and AED training because I realized what David went through and experienced could have happened to me. Nearly 2.5 years later, David is still haunted by the events that took place that morning. He has episodes of PTSD, and he has learned strategies that help him manage the triggers when they occur. I would like to personally thank everybody on the line for taking part in this webinar and for your willingness to watch an upcoming demonstration on how to effectively perform hands-only CPR. You are taking the first steps in learning how to be a lifesaver. I would also like to ask that you encourage your loved ones to get trained. At a minimum, suggest they watch the 90-second video on the AHA's website, heart.org. If you are called on to give CPR in an emergency, you will most likely be trying to save the life of a loved one. Be the difference for your parent, spouse, child, family member, coworker, or friend. What if you were called on to save a life? You never know when you might need to save one. Thank you for helping us to preserve Kurt's memory, and I love you, David Klimas. I'd like to now introduce today's trainer, Kyle Hastings from Bayside CPR and AED Training Center, a National Heart Association training center and authorized provider of AHA CPR and ECC courses. Their mission is to focus on new and cutting-edge ways to facilitate the American Heart Association's standards throughout the United States to businesses, the community at large, and instructors in all 50 states. Kyle, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Jacqueline. What an incredible story that you had there. And I appreciate each and every one of you all today in attendance for sitting in here and learning a little bit about CPR and how it can potentially save a life of someone that you know or a loved one even. What we're going to be doing today is hands-only CPR. Okay, this is a certification class. This is a very basic knowledge-based assessment on how to treat somebody that has sudden cardiac arrest. We're then going to go over some hands-only CPR basics. I'm going to demonstrate for you guys. We're going to go over the difference between cardiac arrest and a heart attack. What's the difference between those two? When to call 911. What is an AED? Ways to take action in an emergency, and some common questions that I get asked a lot as a training center coordinator for Bayside CPR. And I'm also a fire lieutenant in Prince George's County, paramedic as well. So I have a lot of knowledge based in CPR. We do this quite often, not just training, but obviously some of the routine calls that we take, 911 calls daily. We'll go over some closing things, some questions from you guys. I know this isn't something that you go over every day or have to deal with, but the chance is there. I see it often where that does not happen. No one acts upon somebody going into cardiac arrest. So we're going to hopefully prevent any of you guys from doing that today and teach you some of these basic skills. All right. So the American Heart Association recommends hands-only CPR for teens and adults who suddenly collapse. If you see somebody suddenly collapse, that's when we're going to act. We're going to take action on what to do. We're going to go over the hands-only CPR aspect, when you call for 911, and other ways of you to take action without maybe putting your hands on somebody. What is CPR? I get this question a lot. I start off every class asking people what CPR stands for. And believe it or not, many people do not know what that stands for, which is okay. That's why we're all here. We're all learning a new skill. CPR, cardio, is the part of the heart, right? Pulmonary is the lungs, and the resuscitation, we're trying to bring that person back. We're trying to give them the best chance of survival as possible. by doing this skill of CPR. We're pushing hard, we're pushing fast on someone's chest. We're not going to overcomplicate it. We're not going to get into ratios and speed. We're just focusing on pushing on somebody's chest, which acts like an external heart, right? When we're pushing on somebody's chest here in the center of the chest, we're acting as the heart because the heart obviously is not pumping on its own. When we're pushing on the chest, that blood is circulating to the brain and the major organs, okay? That's keeping them alive until EMS, the fire department, arrives on scene. So this question gets often asked a lot. What is hands-only CPR? Do I need to do mouth-to-mouth? The main focus is recognize that someone's having an emergency, call 911 immediately. It is our job, me as the fire department, to respond to that emergency in a timely fashion. I can't guarantee you, whether it's going to be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, depends on our call volume that day, but we're going to get there as quick as we can, and then we're going to treat the patient accordingly. There is at no time where you should be hesitant to calling 911. This is the United States of America. We need to use this service. That's why we're here for you, is to provide care if you're unsure of what is going on. At this time, we can research has shown that people who view CPR, simple instructional video, are more likely to attempt this life-saving skill of resuscitation. Hands-only CPR, which is just like I said, just the compressions, is just as effective as CPR with breaths in the first few minutes of an out-of-hospital cardiac arrest. So at this time, what is cardiac arrest? Someone collapses, stops breathing, they are most likely in cardiac arrest. Cardiac arrest is triggered by an electrical malfunction that causes the heart to have an irregular beat. When the heart doesn't beat, it cannot pump to the brains, the major organs, the lungs. It may be abrupt, and it's usually unexpected. 7 out of 10 people experience cardiac arrest are at a home or residence. They're not in the hospital like you would expect. So the duty for us to act pre-hospital, out of the hospital, and do something is absolutely critical of the outcome of somebody that's in cardiac arrest. The worst thing and the most frustrating thing as the fire department, a first responder, is just arriving on a scene of somebody in cardiac arrest, having a group of 15 to 20 people standing around with their hands in their pockets, some people videoing us. That's unacceptable. We need to be trained. There needs to be someone in that group that has a duty to act, that's going to do something to hopefully give this person the best chance of survival. Is a heart attack or is it cardiac arrest? I get this question all the time. Heart attack is a circulation problem. It's blood flow to the heart that is blocked. It could be to a clot, some plaque that gathered up in that major artery that surrounds the heart. And cardiac arrest is an electrical problem. Our heart is a magical conduction system, and it has electricity in it that makes that heart beat. That heart malfunctions and suddenly stops beating, then they're in cardiac arrest, and that's when we need to do CPR. If you experience somebody that's having a heart attack, those symptoms could vary depending on the age, male, female, whatever it might be, but it usually starts with chest pain, sudden sweatiness, whatever it might be. If you're seeing a person, they don't look well, or they're complaining of something, you call 911. It's that simple. Every minute matters at this point. Their heart, it's being attacked, right? There's lack of oxygen, there's lack of blood flow. We need to get EMS, we need to get that emergency room to them immediately. EMS, we begin treatment as soon as we arrive. We have everything the emergency room might have at the hospital. We bring it right to your doorstep. We're able to do EKGs. We're able to transmit that wirelessly to the physicians. We're able to get you that care and treatment immediately, which is what you need when you're having a heart attack. Heart attacks could lead to cardiac arrest. So if you're having a heart attack, it doesn't get treated. You say, I'm going to go take a nap. I'll be upstairs. If that doesn't get treated, you're probably going to go into cardiac arrest, right? Your heart is going to fail, and that conduction system, that electricity, it's going to stop beating, okay? Your heart is going to stop beating, and that's when you're going to have to now call 911. An automated external defibrillator, an AED, is absolutely critical at this point. I can't stress that enough. In the first 1 to 2 minutes of a witness cardiac arrest, we need to get an AED on somebody, on that patient for the best chance of survival. We all saw the recent news in the NFL, where we saw successful defibrillation, early CPR. Mar Hamlin is now talking with the American Heart Association and training thousands and thousands of people and doing great things for the community. But it took an eye-opener event on national television to kind of show the importance that this works. CPR works. American Heart Association, the program is the best of the best. And I highly encourage that, I respect that all of you are in here right now, but you need to take a training class. Encourage your friends and family to do the same. Seeing it firsthand, it does save lives. I can't stress that enough. The life you save may be one of a loved one, okay? 1 out of 10 people who suffer cardiac arrest at a hospital survive, okay? Cardiac arrest can happen to anyone at any time. I can't tell you when it happens. I wish I could, but we can't tell that much, but we can be prepared for that. Many people appear healthy. They work out every day. They eat salads all day long, whatever it might be. They're healthy people, and this could happen to each and any of us, okay? Our family members, our loved ones. Hands-only CPR has the potential to double or triple a person's chance of survival. With those statistics, I shouldn't have to pull anybody's arm to come take a class, okay? This works. You're going to potentially double or triple a chance of survival for somebody that you love. I would hope that everybody would take this seriously and take a class to learn how to do that. Cardiac arrest can happen at any time, though. Sadly, a very small percentage of people who go into cardiac arrest outside of the hospital live, only about 10%. That's about 1 in 10 of your loved ones who survive, okay? Victims may seem perfectly fine. They're healthy, like I said. They may not have any previous known problems with their heart. They just suddenly go into cardiac arrest, and that's when our training comes in hand, and we're going to do something here. The lack of CPR training is a health equity issue. Sudden cardiac arrest impact lives in every community. The lack of CPR training disproportionately affects women and people of color. Less than half of the people that receive CPR from bystanders before professional help arrives. A woman is less likely to receive CPR from a bystander than a man, and men have 23% higher odds of surviving a cardiac arrest than women. Black or Hispanic adults who experience a cardiac arrest outside the hospital are substantially less likely than their white peers to receive bystander CPR. In many communities, lack of access to care, distance to professionals means that bystander CPR is a matter of life and death. The good news is, though, that there's evidence that people who are aware of how to perform hands-only CPR are more likely to act in an emergency, which is why it's so important that all of you are learning this skill today. And I appreciate you once again that you guys are in here learning about this basic skill that can absolutely save lives. We want to make sure that we remove the potential barriers for people to perform hands-only CPR on all victims of cardiac arrest when necessary. And now we will spend a couple minutes watching a video that illustrates how hands-only CPR saves lives, maybe even someone that you love.
Of all the moments you share with your best friend, the greatest could be the moment you save her life. Every second counts in cardiac arrest. Learn hands-only CPR and be the difference for someone you love.
That video has an impact on me every time I see it. It is so important to learn this basic skill. And it does save lives. I can guarantee you guys. One of the most important takeaways is that you don't know if you will ever need to use the hands-only CPR, but knowledge is power. You will be ready to act in an emergency if needed with this basic training. Let's review some of the things that we've learned so far. Hands-only CPR can help save the life of a teenager or adult who suddenly collapses at home or work or park or the gym. It is not for use with infants and young children. Traditional CPR should be used with babies and small children. So if you have children at home, childcare center, wherever you might be, I encourage you to take one of our CPR classes to learn those basic skills on how to, save a baby if they're choking, CPR, etc. If someone collapses and stops breathing, they are most likely in cardiac arrest. That's when we're going to act and perform the hands-only CPR. It does make a difference. Call 911, stay on the phone, okay? Don't be embarrassed to call 911. Don't even think about it. If you notice that somebody is not right, they're passed out, they're unresponsive, they collapsed in front of you, be the one that acts, okay? Call 911, stay on the phone with the dispatcher, and they're going to provide you instructions. Their training in our area is the best of the best. They will walk you through each and everything to do. They will be that voice of reason on that other line, on speakerphone, whatever it might be. But you need to take action. You can't stand around and hope, oh, somebody behind me is going to call 911. Be the person that calls 911. It could save someone's life, okay? Like I said, don't be afraid. Your actions can only help. If you see a teen or adult suddenly collapse, call 911, push hard, fast on the center of that chest. Continue pushing hard and fast in the center of that chest until help arrives. If the person speaks, moves, or breathes normally while you're giving the chest compressions, you can stop. But once you start doing CPR, we're going to continue till EMS, fire department, somebody else arrives on scene, okay? You might get tired. It is extremely strenuous. If you see somebody struggling doing the compressions, ask to help. Encourage that person to push hard, push fast on the center of the chest while you take a break. They're going to get tired soon too. Then you're going to reset and get somebody fresh in there. We're going to work together as a team, okay? We have someone's life on the line. We're going to act. We're not going to stand back and wait for somebody else to do it. The 911, just real quick. The dispatchers, like I said, they're highly educated. They know what they're going to be doing. They're going to ask you about the emergency. They will ask for details like your location. Can't stress this enough. Be specific. I respond to a lot of apartment buildings, office complexes where these buildings are huge. We arrive on scene. We come through the front door. If no one knows about the emergency, we'll spend 15 to 20 minutes going office to office asking if they called 911. Who's in cardiac arrest? Where's the emergency? I shouldn't get the answer of, oh, I don't know. There's probably 15 to 20 people in that area. Send somebody to the front door, flag us in, have somebody holding the elevator for us. This all speeds up the process and we get this person the treatment that they need immediately. Remember, the time is muscle, right? And our heart is a muscle. So we need to make sure that we care for this person immediately. If it is a Spanish, if it's a Spanish person that's calling 911, our 911 centers in Maryland, Delaware, DC, Virginia, they all have Spanish interpreters. So as soon as they hear somebody speaking Spanish, don't think that you're not going to get the care. Absolutely, you will. And Spanish dispatcher will come on and assist that patient accordingly. This time, I'm going to do a quick demonstration for you guys on CPR. I have a mannequin here. I'm just going to go through the basics here. And then we'll go through questions at the end. Right here, let's say I have a 28-year-old male, unconscious, unresponsive, okay? I witnessed this person go into cardiac arrest. They collapsed in front of me. I'm going to immediately take action by doing what? We're calling 911 immediately. I'm then going to put my hands on the center of their chest. I always use the nipple line on the sternum. Where those lines intersect, that's a good rule of thumb to put your hand. I always use my right hand. It's my dominant hand. I'm right-handed. My left hand's going to interlock like this. I'm going to come up over the patient. I don't want to see anyone bending their elbows like this, okay? You're going to be exhausted. You're just going to use your biceps. I don't care how big you are, strong you are, you will be tired, okay? not going to benefit the patient, and you could injure yourself. So we're going to lock our elbows like this, come up over the patient. We're going to push hard and fast, just like this. Obviously, you will not hear that clicking on an actual mannequin or on an actual person that you're doing a CPR with. But my main objective to teach you guys today is to push hard, push fast. We're just concentrating on the compressions here. We're not going to worry about the breaths at this point. That's a whole separate class, a certification class where we'll teach you about babies, infants, children, CPR, choking. But this is just a demonstration of where to locate the sternum and how to push hard and fast. We do not stop pushing or compressing on that chest once we start. AEDs, we're going to touch on these real quick. I like asking my students, what's an AED stand for? Where have you seen an AED? 10 years ago, AEDs, we probably didn't see many of them, okay? 20 years ago, didn't see many of them. We were selling them for, $8,000, $10,000 a piece. Now they started coming down to around $1,200, $1,300. With that being said, we're starting to see these pop up everywhere, okay? County, state, federal buildings required by law need to have AEDs. Every public school required to have AEDs. Doctors' offices, childcare centers, malls, any place of occupancy greater than 100 people are required to have AEDs. It is excellent. We're seeing our sales increase for these, which means that people are taking this seriously. CPR works. Use of an AED works. It's an automated external defibrillator. It's lightweight now. It's not a huge, heavy box that no one can get off the wall. It doesn't, these boxes that you see on this picture here, it doesn't say authorized personnel only. It's for anybody, the general public. My 11-year-old daughter, she can open this up, hit the power button, follow the prompts, and possibly save someone's life. You don't need to be trained on how to use these. They're pretty much automated, where once you turn it on, it'll walk you through each and every step. You can't do any harm by using this, okay? If I put this on all of you right now, it's gonna say no shock advised because it knows you have a heartbeat. These are smart machines. It's like having a paramedic, a doctor right next to you. If you don't have an AED, know where one is, okay? We try to locate these near the elevators. Why? Because everyone uses the elevator. So you should pass an elevator and AED every day. So you have that muscle memory. So God forbid somebody goes into cardiac arrest, you know that AED is downstairs next to the elevator. You can send somebody to get that as quick as possible. The automated external defibrillator, AED, it's lightweight, portable device. It delivers the electrical shock through the chest to the heart. The shock can potentially stop an irregular heartbeat and allow for a normal rhythm to resume, okay? Sudden cardiac arrest occurs when the heart malfunctions, stops beating unexpectedly. If not treated within minutes, it quickly leads to death. So it's absolutely critical to get these on a patient immediately. If it wants to defibrillate, it'll defibrillate. If it doesn't detect a shockable rhythm, they'll say no shock advised, continue CPR. If you ever take a CPR class, one of our CPR classes, we have AEDs for everyone to use. They're absolutely awesome to use to try to get that muscle memory where you're using one. So God forbid that event does happen, you know how to use it, where to place those pads. Now we're gonna take some time to go through some frequently asked questions that I get all the time, American Heart Association gets all the time. Can you get in trouble for helping somebody? Absolutely not, okay? We have the Good Samaritan law, okay? Most of the 50 states have this law. Person who is in good faith administers emergency care at the scene of an emergency or in a hospital is not liable in civil damages for an act performed during an emergency, unless the act is willfully or want only negligent. If you only have concerns regarding liability, check your own state laws, obviously. I'm not a lawyer, but I've absolutely never read any cases about this, anybody losing their house, their own any kind of finances over a legal lawsuit like this. So I want you to act. I want you to push hard, push fast on someone's chest, okay? There's no need not to do so. All right. Can I make things worse? What if someone has an injury? Can I make the situation worse by doing CPR? No. A person whose heart has stopped must have CPR to survive. You can't make matters worse, right? So if you start pushing on a chest and somebody starts flailing their arm saying stop, then obviously they don't need CPR. I don't want you to continue doing CPR. But if somebody who needs it, you're only helping that person. You can't make matters worse. They're dead technically if they're in cardiac arrest. Their heart is not beating. We need to do everything in our power to circulate that blood, to act for that heart, to keep everything alive until EMS, fire department, arrives. I have no formal training other than participating in this volunteer activity. What if I do it wrong? Without CPR, it's very unlikely that that person will survive anyways. Your actions can only help that person. So if you just remember one thing, hey, Kyle from Bayside, he told me to push hard, push fast on this chest. He told me not to stand around with my hands in my pockets and not do anything. Hopefully you remember that in the event of an emergency and you push hard and fast. If I get on scene with the fire department and you tell me you've been doing hands-only CPR for 10 minutes, I'm going to give you a high five. Excellent job. You did more than most people just standing around and, videoing the whole situation. Okay. So I would appreciate that. We like to see the public helping us to give people the best chance of survival. Remember the 2 steps for hands-only CPR, guys. Hands-only CPR, 2 steps to save a life. It's simple. American Heart Association keeps it simple because we want people to do it. Call 911. Okay. Pretty much everyone has cell phones now or access to one. We're going to push hard and fast in the center of the chest. Like I said, I like to use that nipple line on that sternum where that line intersects. That's where I'm going to put my dominant hand down. Interlock your hand, push hard, push fast. Okay. Learning about hands-only CPR during this presentation is only one way you can help save lives. And we are going to talk about some additional ways that you can make an impact now. Calls to action for volunteers, what you can do to make a difference. Number 1, take charge of your health. I mean, I'm not a dietitian by any means. I'm a firefighter. Our diets aren't the best sometimes depending on our call volume, but we exercise daily. I try to eat some vegetables every day. And you should take that seriously too, right? We only have one body. We need to take care of it. As tempting as it might be, sometimes we need to do a better job at that, especially in the United States. Know the signs of a heart attack. Okay. And you can learn about all this on the heart.org. All this is present, some excellent information that we should all be reviewing, not just once, every couple months, every 6 months. This is important for us. Brush up on your skills. American Heart Association came out with an awesome CPR and first aid app. This app includes short and interactive health lessons to help you be prepared and act in an emergency and brush up on some life-saving skills. There's about 14 interactive lessons on there. They only take about 5 minutes each. If you're competitive, which most of us are in the firehouse, there's a cool leaderboard that shows the points based on the application. It's kind of a cool team building session that you can do with your coworkers at work. And it potentially could save a life. Spread the word, guys. Give the people you care about the power to save lives. Share what you've learned on social media, what you learned today, videos, images by the American Heart Association. Never underestimate the power of knowledge. Volunteers taking their time to raise awareness about this life-saving information. Spreading awareness is key to getting people to act in an emergency. Following this presentation, we will send out a link to social media messages and images you can post on your Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or other platform choices. In addition, infographics, posters, cubicle signs, and more. There's a lot of valuable resources, and we're going to send that out to you at the end of conclusion of this. Additional ways to be a CPR volunteer. If you want to be certified in CPR, become a regional CPR volunteer for the American Heart Association. We're always looking for some dedicated volunteers. You can go to heart.org/CPR to access a variety of resources and information. At the top of the screen, you will see the different headers, and you will be able to click the courses that you're interested in, different training program resources, and much more. There's also a regional CPR volunteer option there as well. You can find a local training center there as well if you would like to take some CPR closer to your home. if Bayside doesn't have any options closest to you. There's also adult and child CPR anytime kit. This is something that you could get delivered to your house. It's an inflatable mannequin where you can perform that CPR with an instructor virtually even. So it's a pretty cool technology that they have now. All right. And I appreciate all of you guys for, again, being in here today. We can come to you, Bayside CPR and AED Training Center. I'm the owner of the company. We love training staff. It's an excellent team building experience for all of you. And you learn something that could potentially save a loved one or a coworker. It shouldn't be something where you got to twist somebody's arm to get done. The last thing you would hate to see is somebody that does go into cardiac arrest and you never got that training. You can email me directly, info@baysidecpr.com, and I'll set you up with our schedule, and we'll get in and get you guys trained and have some fun learning also. Any questions, you can drop them in the webinar chat box. I know we flew through some of this, but this is just a quick introduction. This isn't a certification class.
Hey, Kyle, this is Jenny Pashina. We had a couple of questions in the chat just to see if you could just take another minute to show again on the mannequin the placement of the hands, because they could see it from the side view and maybe show it from the front view. Also, some questions about how deep you should push and about breaking ribs and how you avoid that, or if you should avoid that. So if you could just do a little bit more of a detailed demo of hand placement and the compressions, that would be really helpful.
Yep. So real quick, guys, we're obviously always burying the chest whenever we're doing CPR. Bra comes off, shirt comes off. You can't take the bra off, just lift it up to the neck area. I need this area exposed, okay? I need to see exactly where my hand placements are gonna be and prepare for the use of an AED. I like to use the nipple line, right? So it's gonna be right here, and then the sternum. Where this line intersects, that's where I'm gonna put my dominant hand. So right about this area here. If the anatomy, female, males, I can't see that nipple line correctly, we can start at the belly and just work your way up, palpate, palpate. You'll feel a little notch here. That's your sternal notch. You don't wanna push on that. I always say about 2 fingers above that, that's where we're gonna put our dominant hand, okay? So palpate, palpate, soft, soft, soft. You feel a little notch there, and you can feel it on yourself as well. Don't push on that little notch above your belly there. We're gonna go about 2 fingers above that. That's where we're gonna put our dominant hand. When we put down our dominant hand, interlock, and we're gonna start compressing. We're gonna push hard, push fast. Great question with how deep do you push? 2 inches. Are you gonna have a tape measure with you when you do CPR? Absolutely not. Push hard and fast. Don't be concerned. Every time I do CPR, you're popping, cracking. Is it disturbing to hear? Absolutely. Do we let that get in the way of treating somebody and potentially saving someone's life? Absolutely not. You're going to hear popping and cracking. Tell you the truth, most of the time, it's just the cartilage between the ribs that's popping. It is not the actual ribs that are breaking off. You don't have to be concerned about those puncturing the heart, puncturing the lungs, okay? That cartilage is just popping. Our chests aren't used to being depressed 2 inches, okay? So when you hear that, continue doing what you're doing. Even if you did break a rib, not concerned about it, okay? We have excellent doctors, physicians, they can fix that down the road. My main objective, your main objective, is to circulate blood to the brain and the major organs. By doing so, you're gonna hear some uncomfortable noises. Continue doing what you're doing to potentially save that person's life. Let me know if that answers your question there.
That was really helpful. Thank you.
Yep. Very welcome. The 100 to 120 times per minute, that's how quick we're pushing, okay? Yes, there's the Bee Gees song. There's some other music out there that has beats at that rate to kind of keep you in line. That might be difficult to think of in a time of emergency though. So I tell my students, push hard, push fast, continuous chest compressions. I'm not gonna say, hey, slow down. You're pushing hard, you're pushing fast, keep on going. The main thing is to circulate that blood. Anything else, Jenny, from on your end?
Someone had asked a question about what if somebody has recently had open heart surgery? Should you do CPR?
Unless the physician, so that's something to absolutely ask your doctor. Have I done CPR on people that recently got treated and had a successful open heart surgery? Absolutely. It's not my job to say I can't do CPR on somebody. I'm doing CPR on everybody, even if there's staples in their chest, they have an open wound. Our main job is to circulate that blood. Now, obviously, if they have a statement from their physician that says, do not do CPR on this patient, then we're going to respect that, obviously, the doctor's physician. But I would consult with the physician who performed that surgery and ask that question. That's an absolutely excellent question. But from my experience, I've absolutely done CPR on people that have recently had open heart surgery. And it was successful.
And then we just got a question of, if you start to get tired and you're the only one there, should you take a break or keep pushing slower?
That's a great question. We hope that does not happen, but could it happen? Could you be in a rural area, bike trail, where you're doing CPR a while on your own? Absolutely. 2 minutes is what the science and research shows, where we can actually push at an adequate rate and depth of 2 inches. If it goes longer than that, anything is better than nothing. So still continue doing CPR as long as you can. And hopefully we'll get there as quick as we can and be able to take that over from you, or somebody else can come in and do that. Great question. And remember, guys, like Jacqueline said, we're not doing CPR on the beds. We're taking that person out, we're pushing them or pulling them off, putting them on a hard, flat surface. Okay. We need to do CPR on hard, flat surface. We don't want to push them into the mattress. It's not going to work. We're not going to be able to compress their heart if we're pushing them into a mattress.
If you use the AED, should you then continue to do CPR?
Great question. Absolutely. And this is all covered in a certification class, but the AED is absolutely critical early in cardiac arrest. If I witness somebody in cardiac arrest, AED goes on, follow the prompts. As soon as that defibrillates or says no shock advised, we're going to continue CPR. Every 2 minutes, that AED will analyze again and either say shockable rhythm or non-shockable, and then it will say continue CPR. So that AED will prompt you. A lot of the new AEDs that we sell, they have a metronome, so it will keep you up to pace of 100 to 120 times per minute, and it will tell you when to stop doing CPR, when to switch and get somebody fresh in there, when to let it analyze. It really automates everything with a loud, clear voice, so you can know exactly what to do.
That really answers the question about how a defibrillator is used. It gives you the instruction, is what you're saying.
Absolutely. Yep. They're all FDA approved, obviously, and federally monitored. So they all have the basics of a visual display and an audio. So if you can't hear it, you're going to be able to see it on the machine on most of the AEDs, exactly what step is next and what to look for. A DNR, I see a question in there about a DNR, do not resuscitate. Have you ever seen a situation where that person in cardiac arrest has a DNR in effect? Absolutely. The big thing about DNRs, you need to have a present. A lot of times, the mother's visiting the son, she goes into cardiac arrest. She doesn't have her DNR present with her. We arrive on scene. I have a duty to act as an employee. As a paramedic, I need to perform CPR. I can't respect something that you say you have, but if you show me a physical sheet of that DNR that's signed by a physician, absolutely, we're not doing CPR. That's the person's wish, that they don't want to have somebody pushing on their chest in the event of a cardiac arrest.
Well, and we appreciate you answering all of these questions, Kyle. And I know there are some more questions coming in through the chat, but we're going to need to wrap this up. And what we'll do is when we finish, we will look through the questions. And when we send out the email with information and links, we will make sure to try to answer all of the questions that came through in the chat that we did not have time to answer today. So thank you so much, Kyle.
You're very welcome. And everybody, if I didn't get to your question, please send me an email, info@baysidecpr.com, or Kyle, Kyle, @baysidecpr.com. And I'll get back to you guys immediately with a educated answer there. I appreciate all your time here. You guys are awesome. And thank you, American Heart Association, for having me here. All right. And then we're going to pass this back off to Vishal.
Great. Thank you, Kyle. Wow, thank you. That was awesome. I love the engagement, love the questions. Really special thanks to Kyle from Bayside for leading our training today, and to Jacqueline for sharing her family's story. Thanks again to my team at SAIC for their tireless support of the association. Before we end, I want to extend a special invitation to each of you. Please mark your calendars for Saturday, March 2nd, 2024, when the American Heart Association will be hosting a Centennial Heart Ball, a celebration of 100 years of groundbreaking work by the American Heart Association and its supporters. As the 2023 chair, it gave me great pleasure to pass the baton to next year's Centennial Heart Ball chairs, Karen Dale White, who couldn't be with us today. I know their leadership will propel the campaign to new heights in 2024. To make room for this once-in-a-lifetime celebration, the 2024 ball is moving to a new location. It's the Waldorf Astoria in the old post office building downtown DC. The event will be bigger and bolder than ever before, so if you don't want to miss it. If you've never been, it's a great event, dinner, dancing, amazing auction, and more. The Heart Association team will be following up on today's training with the information about how to reserve your table. Thanks again for taking an hour out of your day today to learn CPR and be the beat with us. Have a great day, everyone, and enjoy the weekend.